Among the many documents required for Aliyah, perhaps none creates quite as much existential comedy as the personal status affidavit, a legal document that forces you to formally declare to the State of Israel whether you are currently romantically entangled with another human being. Yes, somewhere in Jerusalem, there exists a government office where civil servants spend their days reviewing sworn statements about people's dating lives, nodding seriously as they stamp documents that essentially say, "I, Sarah Cohen, do solemnly swear that I am indeed still single and have the Netflix subscription history to prove it." The single status affidavit represents a particular form of bureaucratic humiliation. Picture yourself standing in a sterile government office, raising your right hand before a notary public, and formally declaring under penalty of perjury that nobody wants to marry you right now. The document requires you to state not only that you are currently unmarried, but that you have never been married, or if you have been married, that you are now divorced or widowed, complete with documentation of your romantic failures or tragic losses. It's like LinkedIn for your love life, except less optimistic and more legally binding. For those who are genuinely, enthusiastically single, this process can feel like a cosmic joke. You find yourself in the surreal position of needing official government validation of your solo status, as if your empty refrigerator and tendency to eat cereal for dinner weren't evidence enough. The State of Israel, apparently, does not trust your ability to accurately assess your own relationship status without sworn testimony and a notarized signature. Perhaps they've encountered too many people who confused "it's complicated" with "legally married." The married affidavit, while seemingly more straightforward, comes with its own comedic pitfalls. Married couples must provide documentation proving they are actually married to each other, and not just two random people who happen to show up at the Jewish agency together claiming spousal status. This becomes particularly entertaining when couples have been married so long they can barely remember their wedding date, or when they discover that their marriage certificate has been stored in a box in the attic for 20 years and may have suffered water damage during that basement flood of 2018. The process becomes exponentially more complicated for those whose romantic histories resemble a Russian novel. Multiple marriages, divorces in different countries, name changes, or common law relationships that may or may not count as marriages depending on which government you ask. Some applicants find themselves constructing elaborate timelines of their romantic entanglements, complete with supporting documentation, as if preparing a legal brief titled "The Case for Why My Love Life Should Not Prevent Israeli Citizenship." Divorced applicants face the particular indignity of having to provide their divorce decree to prove they are no longer married, essentially submitting a legal document that confirms their relationship failed spectacularly enough to require court intervention. The Jewish agency doesn't just want to know you're divorced, they want to see the paperwork proving you're divorced, preferably with official seals and apostille certification, because apparently your word that it didn't work out isn't sufficient for immigration purposes. Widowed applicants encounter the deeply uncomfortable requirement of providing death certificates for their deceased spouses, transforming profound personal loss into bureaucratic necessity. The intersection of grief and immigration paperwork creates moments of surreal administrative grief, where love and loss become reduced to certified copies and official translations. Perhaps most amusing are the cases where people's relationship status changes during the Aliyah process itself. Imagine the comedy of submitting a single status affidavit only to get engaged 3 months later, necessitating entirely new paperwork and explanations to confuse Jewish agency representatives about why your romantic situation has evolved since your last filing. Some couples have been known to delay engagements or accelerate wedding plans based solely on where they are in the Aliyah timeline, allowing Israeli immigration requirements to dictate their romantic calendar. The notarization process adds another layer of bureaucratic theater to the proceedings. Picture yourself sitting across from a notary public who has just listened to you solemnly swear that you are not married, watching them apply their official seal with the same gravity they might use for a corporate merger or real estate transaction. These notaries have witnessed thousands of people formally declaring their singlehood, creating a peculiar form of professional expertise in romantic status verification. For those living in countries where common law marriage exists, the personal status affidavit becomes an exercise in legal philosophy. How long can you live with someone before the Israeli government considers you married? Does sharing a Netflix account count as a domestic partnership? What about joint pet ownership? These questions, while seemingly absurd, represent genuine concerns for applicants trying to navigate the intersection of different legal systems and cultural definitions of relationship status. The international aspect of this requirement creates additional opportunities for confusion and comedy. Different countries have vastly different approaches to documenting relationship status, leading to situations where perfectly normal people find themselves unable to prove they're single because their government simply doesn't issue single status certificates. Some countries, apparently operated by romantic optimists, assume that if you're not married, everyone will simply take your word for it. The timing of these affidavits also creates logistical challenges that border on the absurd. The documents typically have expiration dates, meaning your sworn statement of singlehood has a shelf life, as if your relationship status might spontaneously change without your knowledge. This leads to the peculiar phenomenon of people having to re-swear their single status multiple times during a lengthy Aliyah process, creating a paper trail of confirmed loneliness that could serve as evidence in future therapy sessions.